Hey, Unicorn Nation, welcome to another episode of the Unicorn Perspective. Today's guest, Eric Taz, good friend of mine. I've known Eric for quite a few years, and we started going to like the original Shopify Mastermind they started having, where it was invite only top players on the ecom platform, the Shopify platform, and that was where I met great friends of mine now, but back then met Ezra Firestone and Adrian Morrison and Chris Record and just a bunch of great guys that are now friends of mine. But Eric and I met, and we hit it off. We've become good friends ever since, and we've been to the same events. We got to travel together, and just an amazing guy. And runs a company called Shine On Jewelry, which is a really cool company because they do print on demand, but they do it with jewelry, which is amazing because it's really expensive. The amount of capital they had to invest in equipment, machinery, labor, all that stuff. It's in the U.S., right? So they actually have facilities in Jersey and Florida. It's not made in China and shipped over here. And it allows marketers to basically take really cool, sayings, designs, put them on a lot of different types of jewelry and different materials and sell those on e-commerce platforms on an on-demand fashion without holding inventory. And they're just seeing explosive growth. I know this quarter has been their biggest quarter ever. They basically set records like every day for like 5 days. He had some crazy stuff happen. I know he had, his facility in Jersey with everything that happened with COVID. They weren't an essential business, but he was getting all these record sales, but a lot of his employees couldn't come into work. So he actually set up a new facility in Florida where he moved down to. So they have a second facility now there, and the story of how he did that and just handling that pressure and the capital requirements and all that stuff is amazing. We covered a lot of stuff in the interview. We covered everything from what it means to be an entrepreneur, the passion, the drive, what your desires are, your goals are, how to deal with failure, how to deal with successes. We talk about marketing, we talk about psychology, we talk about, all kinds of stuff as per usual on the Unicorn Perspective. You're going to really enjoy this one. I'll see you on the other side. All right, Eric. So Eric's the first buddy of mine that I'm actually following through on this, like hit the record button before we catch up. I caught myself, we were just like catching up and he was sharing some interesting stuff. And I was like, I need to start hitting record before we dive down this. Cause I think we're going to speak for like 15, 20 minutes, catching up and share all this cool stuff. And then we're going to realize like, oh shit, now we need to record stuff for the actual interview. So, I'm happy you're here, man. I'm happy you're doing well and you're safe. And now you're down in Florida. You're down in our neck of the wood. And the way you said you got there is super interesting to me. So you were saying, you have your facility in Jersey, and we're following similar trajectories because we're both from Jersey. We both had places in Jersey, and then I moved down to Florida like 6 years ago. Now you moved down to Florida, but you said you guys were like growing like crazy during everything that happened the last 2 months, makes sense with all the ecom boom. But Jersey and obviously tri-state area got hit really hard, had all these restrictions. So like this is what's interesting about entrepreneurs, I think, is like a normal person would have just said, all right, I'm just going to close my business for 2 months. Like the state says I can't do anything, so I can't do anything. So I'm just going to shut things down. But you decided to come down to Florida and find like another facility and just like basically move the business down to Florida overnight, which is crazy to me.
Yeah, I think I think entrepreneurs have a knack of building the airplane as they're falling out of the sky.
Yeah.
Building the airplane on the way down. So that's what it sort of felt like for a couple of years now. But yeah, it was a perfect storm during COVID for us between, breaking our all-time record like 4 days in a row. Malls were closed. People needed Mother's Day gifts. It just happens that we also do jewelry and personalized products. So it was a slam dunk. I don't know what you were seeing for CPMs then, but from what I've heard, a lot of big box retailers were cutting ads, so the CPMs were also low. But yeah, we had COVID restrictions. Like obviously, Jersey is grouped in with New York, being super restricted with what you can and can't do. We had like curfews up there, couldn't work past 8 p.m. We could only have a certain number of people in there. So while our orders, tripled, our workforce up there was like cut in half or less. So when I moved down to Florida, it was my intention to build a tech office here. Our CTO was already down here. I decided to move kind of for lifestyle and to build a tech team. But it just got to a point with COVID and the orders kept going up and I had no choice. So I said, okay, it's like Noah's Ark. Everything we have in New Jersey, we got to duplicate it and set up the exact same thing in Tampa. And so, we found we pieced together enough space between a bunch of different places, put machines in different places, and we made it happen in a matter of days. Like 2 to 3 days, we had the whole thing set up. Um,
That's nuts. When did you make that move? Because I feel like even down here, up until a few weeks ago, it was still pretty crazy to like nothing was really open, and so like getting a realtor and seeing properties, and then getting machinery and like installing everything and setting everything up.
so I'll be honest. I mean, I was going into the office by myself for a few weeks, and then we had a couple people that were spaced out for a few weeks in the tech office. And then across the road, there was this vacant space. And so Florida is a little bit different with the restrictions. We actually qualified as essential. A lot of manufacturing qualified as essential.
Okay, in Florida.
Yeah, in Florida. So it was a little bit different than Jersey.
Got it. Yeah, I mean that's crazy to me because I like just the thought of having, especially because like your business requires so much like specific machinery and like equipment, and there's a huge fixed cost with your business. So it's amazing that you're able to make that investment and actually like do that when you could do that. Like how has it impacted the customers though? So that's the one thing I've seen. I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. Is a split in how ecom business owners have handled the last 2.5 months.
Mhm.
And we've seen it on both sides because like on the performance side of our business, we work with like bigger brands and we work on like, lots of affiliate offers, and the like hardcore affiliate offer type things that are pushing were scaling, but didn't have the ability to fulfill. So they're shipping like 8, 10 weeks out, and pages are just getting hammered with like low customer satisfaction scores. Ad
Yeah.
accounts are getting shut down. And then there's the bigger brands that basically put things on pause. So like
Mm.
we were scaling things with On It and just crushing it. And they basically said, hey, we got to put things on pause. We got to stop running ads
Yeah.
because we're running the risk of not being able to ship to our rebuild customers. And we don't want to ship even 2 weeks out. So I'm curious with like your vendors and stuff,
Yep.
what did that gap of time do in terms of fulfillment?
Well, I think we're seeing with Facebook and people being shut down for low feedback scores, we're starting to see that now because Facebook doesn't care. Like they don't care that COVID hit. They just care that the feedback score is high.
Yeah.
So it's like, no, you're responsible for figuring your stuff out. We don't care about COVID. It's your responsibility to stop it if if you felt your supply chain was screwed up. Fortunately for us, um, like 96% of our stuff went out on time for Mother's Day. We had a few hiccups here and there. We did probably a little more refunding than we normally would have to do, but it got washed out by the volume. We had awesome volume. So yeah, we were okay. Um, we never said, stop or slow down. Um, yeah,
Yeah.
we're sort of in this realm of, yeah, we're like e-commerce, but we're like hardcore supply chain and kind of operations too, because we're really a service for marketers, a service for sellers, and it's our job to figure out those scaling issues. It's definitely capital intensive, like anytime we make a bunch of profit, we have to roll that back into more machines, more people, and all of that stuff. But as we grow, we get more economies of scale, so we get more and more efficient.
Yeah, that's what's amazing to me with your model, and it's cool because like it's there's a lot of fixed costs up front. It gives you kind of huge barriers to entry. Like there's a lot of POD that does T-shirts and posters and stuff that's very, you know, very inexpensive, comparatively, but like to buy bulk gold and bulk like silver and just like the raw materials you use is very different than buying bulk cotton, right? It's just like totally different ends of the spectrum. Um, like going back to when you started Shine On, how do you get started? I don't know if we've ever talked about this. Like,
Hmm.
because that's crazy to me. It's just like, hey, you know what I want to do? Like, there's a lot of people out there that print on demand t-shirts, but you know what I think people need is like they need badass jewelry with really, nice materials and stuff. And I'm going to buy a shit ton of stuff in bulk, and I'm going to get these awesome expensive machines, and I'm going to start making all this stuff. Like the risk there is obviously considerable.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, so the first version of Shine On, we didn't make anything. So it was easy, right? We would take in orders and then we would send them to our my friend's factory in Thailand, and he does all of like I don't know if you know David Yurman, and he does
Yep.
Saks Fifth Avenue's jewelry, really nice stuff. So the product was great. It was selling super well, but still the customers were waiting like 4 to 5 weeks. And it doesn't matter like what you tell them at that point. It just doesn't matter. They don't believe you anymore. So we had a ton of chargebacks. We had to shut down that operation. And we actually almost went out of business because we were investing in this whole thing where it was made on demand overseas. Lesson learned. So like 3 years ago, we took the last of our money and we went out to the hills of New Jersey. We started setting up in a garage at first with just a couple machines, and we had a very basic product, which was this sort of graphical jewelry product. And then, yeah, I mean, there were a couple times where, man, I remember that first, it was like 2017 Christmas, where I had to make a decision. If I didn't take out these huge personally guaranteed loans for inventory and machines, we weren't gonna make it. Um, Later, I found out that wasn't supposed to do that with some of our investor agreements, but we did it, and it propelled us to where we are today. We like never looked back. It was a really hard decision to make because very capital intensive, millions of dollars in financing, all sorts of different financings. But it's cool. I mean, I've learned over the years, like there's equipment financing that's different than, standard inventory financing or working capital. Like there's all these different mechanisms that are very old school. Sometimes I feel like I'm in like an old school kind of factory business that's like attached to digital marketers, but it's still like these old school business lessons that I really appreciate. My grandfather, he owned like a textile and box manufacturing factory. I wish he was still around to sort of see what I'm doing, because he would have never expected I'd be doing a lot of that same stuff that he probably did.
And I'm sure you'd be proud too. That'd be amazing to see what you've been able to build. So what goes through your mind? Like I know what's gone through my mind over the years when you raise money or you take out any type of personal guaranteed loan, but probably never had to do one to the extent that you did. At least the risk reward there of like, I'm gonna borrow a ton of money to buy a lot of machines and hope it works. Like, what was there a point where you thought like, was there any doubt, I guess, of saying like, maybe I should just wind this down and do something different? Or is it just like, I got to do what I got to do, and whatever, wherever, however the cards fall, they fall.
At the beginning, everybody told me to shut the company down.
Yeah.
Like, seriously. This is like right before we came out with V1 of our Shopify app. And so I just said no. I just said no, I'm not doing it. Um, like the vision never changed. I was inspired by Teespring and working with digital marketers, bringing jewelry and personalized products to them in America. And while I didn't have the resources at the time, and we had a lot of people running around wearing many hats. I wouldn't say we were a seasoned veteran team by any stretch then, but I just knew there was a big opportunity if we could keep chipping away at it. And so we just kept chipping away and continue to go through, even today, different rounds of different financings. And yeah, I'm so happy I did that. I would have totally regretted it if I didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's what's hard. I think for a lot of people that don't do what we do, to understand is the opposite end of it. So it's like a lot of people look at it as there's the risk is in it failing, right? That's like 100% of the view is on the risk of what happens if you do it and it doesn't work. And they don't view the other side, which is the risk if I don't do it and what if it did work, right? Because that's the thing that like you can get over failure. Like everyone fails and you fail at different levels and different sizes, but like failure is guaranteed. The one thing that's hard to get over is the thought of like I could have done this and I didn't. I guess what I'll say is like I'm sure if you talk to your, when I talk to my grandpa back in the day and different people, especially people that are older and have lived their lives, they all have stories of when I was 20, I had this idea for this thing and I didn't do it. And then somebody invented it and I could be a millionaire. Like you hear those stories all the time where people literally for decades, they think back to if I just did that thing. So that stays with them. You very rarely hear anybody in their 60s, 70s say like, wow, that one time I took a risk and it failed. Like that stuck with me forever. It's like people usually get over that. They don't get over the other side of it. And I don't think enough people think about that when it's happening. And then it's like 40 years later and they're like, wow, I wish I did something.
I think I think this is really important for people watching this to know, and people in our industry. It's like, look, if you or I fucked up, we have our network. Like
Yep.
we have all these people that trust us, that we sort of have had success before. We know what we're doing. There'll always be another opportunity within that network. Whereas, maybe if you took a huge risk with your business 50 years ago and you went bankrupt, like there wasn't kind of a lot you could do. There wasn't the new types of credit available that there are now. You could screw up and go bankrupt, and there's ways you could get that wiped clean in a year or two, as opposed to 7 years like it used to be. So
Yep.
I that was the main thing that gave me the confidence to make an all-in decision, was that, look, I have this network. I'll always get a job somewhere. Like, I'll be able to work lots of different places. So
Yeah. I mean, that's what's amazing is think about just even like over the years, the Shopify mastermind that, I think we first met at 3 years ago, the one in New York, the first one they did, and then they do in Atlanta and so on. Like just the group from there, like it's everyone there is doing amazing things. And like just that part of your network alone, there are so many opportunities that come from there. And that's what's amazing is if you have a really strong network, there's a lot less risk in failure because it's like each relationship you develop kind of levels up your floor. And so when you fall, you're not falling down here. You're falling to here or you're falling to here, and it's much easier to get back up and keep going. So it becomes a lot less riskier.
yeah, and I actually use the network way more now. I'll post, like, hey, I need somebody who's a specialist in this. I was like kind of nervous to do that before, but now I'm like, wow, people really want to help,
Yeah.
you know? Like post all the time. I post all the time for needs. It's awesome.
Yeah. Especially if you're giving, I think it's there's powered reciprocity. So if you're giving a lot, it's, people want to give back to you as well. It's this constant circle that's developed. So you're saying, you're looking for specialists and stuff. That kind of leads me to what I'm curious about, which is where do you go from here? So you have now a second facility down in Florida. You've obviously had probably your biggest quarter, I'd imagine, you've
Yeah.
ever had, and you have what, like 50 employees, and just a booming business. So what's next in terms of like future products, in terms of like future direction of where you want Shine On to be in a few years?
So first it starts at bringing in these more veteran folks. We're bringing in the former head of jewelry at eBay,
Yeah, I
to
saw that.
be
It's
our,
awesome.
yeah, really excited about that because, we have all this great experience in e-commerce, and she has all this great e-commerce experience, at scale, and sort of all these systems. So that's what we're looking forward to doing, is bringing in people who are adding systems to our system, not just bodies to do stuff. We brought in a head buyer sourcer from Dollar Tree. She was buying, groceries, and every penny mattered. So those type of things at scale, those systems are really gonna help us get to the next level. But it's also just channel diversification, you know, not being so reliant on Facebook, Amazon, uh, Google. We'll be doing a lot with Google soon, direct. We'll be like a official partner with Google on a cool program soon. Um, Pinterest, we've had a lot of good success on Pinterest. I think we're getting 3 million views a month on Pinterest now. So collectively those really add up and safeguard safeguard the business as we sort of scale.
Definitely. Have you guys done anything on TikTok? We just had a onboarding call with one of their brand partners, and it's literally like their ad platform's been in beta for like over a year, and it's still super small. And it took us like multiple connections and intros to get to the right person to get invited in. But they were sharing with us a lot of like kind of in their confidential proprietary deck of like data and stuff on the platform. And it's insane. Like, I don't think I'm divulging anything too proprietary here, and hopefully I'm not get kicked off TikTok before we start. I think it's public knowledge, but they said that the average user on their platform spends 87 minutes a day on it, and checks it 16 times, which is just crazy. Like 16 plus times a day, 87 minutes a day actively spent on it, and that half their monthly actives post a video a week, which was
Wow.
just like insane to me. So I'm curious, especially because you do stuff in jewelry, and I feel like definitely can go for like a younger demo or for a female demo if you've
Yeah.
played around with it organically or anything like that.
Um, so the way we kind of operate is we're a product first company.
Yeah.
So if we can like identify something that's doing well through various, spy tools or whatever mechanism, we'll do our own internal validation of that product and then maybe put like a twist on it so we're not copying it and then offering it up at scale. But pretty soon we brought a couple of our top sellers actually in-house. So they're going to be running media in-house for Shine On. And the whole goal is to give sellers a playbook saying, all right, here's the new product. It's live in your app. It's free. Go publish it. Here's all the targeting we did in these different places. Just go for it. It's on demand. There's no risk.
Yeah.
So just let it rip.
Well, that's what I was going to add, because that's what's interesting about your model and also the model of like people like Giddy Up and stuff,
Yeah.
is like you play this kind of middle ground where you're the kind of the platform, and you're there to really support the people on either the offer side or the advertiser, publish advertiser side.
Yep.
That being said, there's also, I know it's like the direction that they're going is starting to build out their own back end and actually acquire some of their companies and brands.
Hmm.
Um, because you guys have these, brands built on top of your platform that could be doing millions of dollars a month. And so it's a weird place to be where it's like, hey, do we, keep being the middleman essentially? And obviously we make money for every sale they make, but we also know like we have a keen idea of like what works and what doesn't work. We have talent. Do we just build our own properties? Do we build or acquire them and bring them, totally in house? And so we can still support, marketers, but we also own our own properties for different niches.
Yeah, I think like what was that line? It's like kids say the damnedest things.
Yep.
It's like marketers do the damnedest, run the damnedest ads because they're so creative. They come up with so many angles we would never think of. And when we'll start seeing something take off, we'll like look into it. We're like, dude, that is so sick. You're amazing. That's amazingly smart. So even if we did do our own thing like that, our own brands and whatnot, we would still kind of be limited because instead of having, let's say, five of our own internal ad accounts, we have like, 5,000 kind of looking at it at different angles and chopping it up. So the marketers it's all about them. It's all about, even with Giddy Up, it's about the publishers. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that makes sense. So how does it work with you guys in terms of like the customer data and stuff? So if I come on and like our Proud Patriots brand, we're making stuff, and we make this American flag dog tag ID, whatever, and sell it through our Shopify store. You guys obviously get all the information because you need to ship it and all that good stuff. Like who technically owns that data? The only reason I ask is I feel like there's opportunities there as well as like you're building this massive database on top of all of your marketers, right? It's like every
Yeah.
sale is coming through, you're getting data that's super valuable.
Yeah, so we use it for like retargeting. So we'll help, we'll leverage that data to retarget on their behalf. Like if they're selling on shineon.com,
Okay.
right? We'll use that through partners to help them sell more. We're doing this thing called customer for life, um, where if we do use that data to make more sales, like let's say that customer buys something else that's somebody else's product. If you're the originator of that customer, we'll actually pay you commission. So the whole thing is like making a system where everybody's winning. Everybody. It sort of continues to build off of each other. So even if you're not running an ad that customer's buying, you're making kind of mailbox money. So soon, like in Shine On in the app and in the platform, you're gonna actually see like, okay, this is all your direct sales, but this is money that's being made from retargeting that customer in other niches and stuff like that. So
That's
it's
smart.
win-win.
Yeah, so it's kind of just a lifetime cookie almost on the buyer that you bring into the ecosystem,
Yep.
which makes a lot of sense. Um, so what's it's just I like whenever we talk because whenever I like talk with friends that have really cool businesses, I just get all these ideas. So I just like blurt them all out because it's like the mechanism you've built and the platform you've built just has so many opportunities and paths you can go down that are really interesting. I guess the big thing then is like where do you want it to actually be? So you talk about some of the hires you're making, which are high profile, um, but like in an ideal world, what does Shine On look like in like 5 years? Is it just you've continued to add more product selection, you've continued to do maybe some high end custom stuff, or is it like, hey, we want to build our own version of eBay for jewelry? Obviously, you don't have to divulge like trade secrets or things that are deep plans, but just at a high level.
So I always think about like in the business, what are the levers that we're pulling that, you could pull one lever, which is one KPI or metric. You could pull another one over here, and yeah, that if you pull that, it'll make a difference. So we're looking at pulling three levers because if you just do it out in a spreadsheet and you multiply, 30% increases across all three, it's exponential growth. And
Yeah.
that's what we're going for is exponential growth. So it's like more sellers on the platform, more product types, hiring like a lead sort of buyer for materials to get into wallets and watches and all their Etsy sort of stuff that allows us to add more products. And then more units sold per product per seller. So helping with like conversion rate optimization, helping with all the like, I don't know, all the little tools that help them keep more money, all the little support features and all that sort of stuff. So if we just pull three levers, it's exponential growth. Sellers are individually making more profit, and it's like a win-win for everybody.
Definitely. That makes sense. It's on the platform, I forgot. Is it like do you have the ability if somebody like creates a really hot product for other people to create offers for that product, or is it just I create my product and I market my product?
Yeah, we thought about making sort of a marketplace for designs where you can open it up and get commission for that design. We also considered doing like a portal where if you're an Etsy artisan, you could actually submit your product to be direct marketed with some of the best Facebook marketers. So that's a program that we've mapped out already that you'll probably see in the next year or so. So that's obviously we would do production and scale it up, but it's just it's ideas.
Yeah,
It's a funnel for ideas.
that's really cool. Because yeah, I'd imagine there's probably a good amount of people out there that have great marketing ability, but just lack in design and creativity on that front. So they're just like looking for hot,
Yeah.
unique things that they can scale up, especially during the holidays or like I said, Mother's Day, Christmas, stuff like that.
Yeah, and the best product people, like they're not really marketers either. They're at least in kind of handmade goods and whatnot, personal. Like even like an inventor, a gadget person, they're not thinking always, how can I scale this sucker up huge on Facebook? They're like, how can I make this really unique, sick product that no one's ever made before? So pairing
Yeah.
direct response marketers up with product designers is like, that's where it's at, you know?
Yeah, that gets very exciting because you can leverage each person's genius without them getting distracted and having to do two things, right? It's like I just want to buy media and scale offers, or I want to make cool stuff and make money, right? It's like you have those two parties, and you support them and give them an ecosystem that they can collaborate and work together.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you said watches, which is really interesting because I love watches, even though I have like nice. I literally Larissa and I we had our digital baby shower, our digital gender reveal, um, and it was the first time in like 3 months that I actually put on like jeans and a nice watch and wore my actual like nice ring. I've been wearing this like elastic ring, just because we've been inside for like 2.5 months. It's been no need. Watches are obviously like incredibly intricate and kind of labors of love, at least on the, like the high end side. How do
Yeah.
you, and obviously you're probably still like working out the kinks and stuff, like how is it possible to do it as like a, or I guess two questions. One is like, what do you envision on your end from like the actual POD side, like more customizing the colors and stuff? And like, how does that actually work?
I mean, we do a lot of engraving.
Okay. Engraving. Yeah.
Like engravings are, there are these two businesses. One's like things remembered. It used to be in every single mall,
Mm-hmm.
and they used to have engraving machines in the mall, so you
Yep.
could go up and get your things remembered. You could give it to them and get it engraved. So that company before it went bankrupt, like I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, they were doing 400, 500 million a year. So clearly, like these are products people want. It's just take it out of the mall and put that online. There's personalizationmall.com, which became the digital version of that. And so, but even that is like an organic search experience. So what we're doing is taking those products, yeah, and just going direct because we found that it's strange. These products, they sell so well going direct, but they're not solving a problem. They're not like a supplement or skincare that's like, you have this problem, here's how you solve it with this tool. There's no problem to solve. So it's just, I'm actually amazed how well this stuff sells. I'm like, every day, I'm like, I can't believe this. But if you can trigger the right emotional response with the message, that will make people buy, impulse buy, especially if it's in the $40 to $60 range, you know? So kind of similar to t-shirts, but about double the price point, and usually the person buying the shirt is wearing the shirt, whereas with our stuff, usually the person buying it's giving it to somebody else. Yeah.
Yeah. So it is interesting. Like that whole demo, like that, the whole, all the products you sell essentially are not, like you said, they're not solutions and they're not necessarily needed, right? It's like nobody necessarily needs jewelry. But what I always think about is just like some of the most iconic brands sell things that nobody needs, right? Like nobody needs a $1,000 smartphone, and nobody needs a, like there's plenty of ways to accomplish what you do with an iPhone, with any phone, right? Nobody needs $1,000 Louboutin shoes, and nobody needs a $10,000, $20,000 Rolex. Nobody needs a $300,000 Rolls Royce, but people buy them because of the way it makes them feel, and because it's a symbol and it says something and it's an emotional purchase,
Yeah.
and that's so incredibly powerful. The trick is with a lot of those things, it's a balance between like selling but also building brand, right? It's like a lot of those brands people spend a lot of money with because they've been exposed to and learned about it for years. It's like everyone knows Rolls Royce, Rolex. Like you're exposed to it over such a long time, and there's such an image that it becomes very aspirational. So you start seeing it when you're younger, and then by the time you start making money, you hear about it, and then eventually, if you make money, then you can, like, I can finally afford one. I go and I buy one. Um, and so that's what's interesting about just that whole market is the selling strategy is definitely different than when you're selling something that solves a clear problem. Like the way you have to approach it psychologically is very different.
Yeah. And even with the expensive stuff, I think there's consideration. It's all about like consideration, meaning they do the research on the product, they compare. If you can find a product or create a product where, it's a novel product. Obviously, there's no competition, there's no comparison. You're building a moat around that product. If you can get the message right on a product, maybe it's with us, we do it through a little message card behind the piece of jewelry. If you can get that message right, they can't find that anywhere else. There's no like consideration in the purchase. Just like, yep, I need that, you know. So that's where we win. Is no, there isn't any consideration. It's all right. I trust this brand, like you said. I trust it. Okay, it's shipping from America. Here's when it's shipping. Here's what it's made out of. Other than that, if I'm triggered, I'm like good to go. I'll pay the shipping for $5 too.
Yeah, definitely. How do you guys handle that? Because I know with print on demand, it's probably one of the bigger struggles and challenges, at least on like the t-shirt and poster side, is obviously when when it ships, it's usually shipped in like really crappy packaging and it comes in like a little white plastic envelope with no branding. I'd
Yeah.
imagine that the expectations are a little different when somebody buys like a nice gift or a nice piece of jewelry.
Yeah, I mean, there's good margin that we can play with, so we can invest in like nicer stuff. I mean, just like Apple, I don't know what they make their iPhones for. It's probably $10, and they probably spend five on the packaging.
Yeah.
So like, um, yeah, we need to do those things because we have in mind we're always thinking about the future for sellers, like trying to help them out. Like the Facebook feedback score is a perfect example where they're going to probably start surveying. I don't know, you could tell me if they are already. Are they, if they're surveying product quality, shipping speed, all
Yep.
this different stuff. If you're selling a crappy product, you're going to get shut down, and you should get shut down. Like there's business is becoming more challenging again digitally, but that's a good thing for everybody, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I think we went through this kind of like golden era where it
Mm,
was the early adopters on ecom, and it was a lot of POD, it was a lot of drop shipping, and you could get away just because of the economics on like the cost on the media buy. You could get away with the lower quality packaging and the low retention rate and the higher chargebacks and all these things. But now that it's like everybody now wants to get in on it, right? You have so many courses teaching people how to start your first Shopify store and how to get onto ecom and how to do all these things. Um, it's incredibly competitive. There's a lot of people doing it, and consumers are getting smarter too. I think that's the other big thing is like a few
mm,
years ago, even, definitely like 6 years ago, but even just like a few years ago, a lot of people weren't buying a lot of things online. Like a huge
yeah.
percentage weren't. Obviously, people are still buying stuff online, but it's definitely exponentially changed the last few years. And so like things that used to work don't work anymore, right? So like a year ago, 2 years ago, you could get away with the fake counters, right? 10 left in stock, 5 left in stock. The deal ends in 5 minutes, those things. But like more and more consumers are catching on, like, hey, why do I see this on every site and every page and it doesn't change? Like I just bought it, but the number's the same. Like people start to catch on to these things, and then they see like, hey, it's weird that like Nike and Louis Vuitton and all these sites, why don't they do that? Like they're, way more in demand and way more limited, but they don't have, counters and stuff. So it's like, I think the risk is what a lot of people don't think about is association, right? Like you
Mm,
want to be associated with other brands that people have positive experiences with. So I want to do things if I'm building a brand like those brands, Rolexes and Louis Vuitton, then all the dropshippers and print on demand who use all those apps. Because like if you get one bad experience with a company that uses those things, as soon as somebody sees that on your site, they're instantly connecting it.
yeah.
This looks the same as that one app that screwed me over, that store that I bought from and I never got the product. So this looks cool, but it seems too similar, so I'm not going to buy from it. Like people don't think about the repercussions of that.
Yeah. You're like bad apples in the industry, some of the recent bustimonials that are out there. Um, Bad apples like ruin it for all of us doing the right thing. I will tell you that a test that we're doing right now is this just putting the phone number on the product page, putting the phone
That's
number
huge.
like on the cart and testing, okay, I don't care about the people actually calling. Is this going to increase conversion just by having the 100 number on there, knowing that they could call and there's like liability there on the other end? So those tests have been really good. A lot of times people will call and they're just saying, I just want to make sure you guys were real and not drop shipping from China. We get
Yeah.
that like every day. So
Yeah.
yeah,
We
it's
started doing that too. And it works. Like again, it's not even about, people calling. It's purely, the main goal is that people see a phone number and they're not used to seeing phone numbers online, right? It's like you can't call Google or Facebook or these sites. A lot of these, like most places online, don't have phone numbers, and people like knowing that if something happened, there's a way to get in touch with him other than just sending an email to a big contact form. And especially for demographics that are older, um, it builds a lot of confidence and makes them feel more comfortable making a purchase, just seeing it there.
yeah. But these are old school principles. They're like, you have, of course, your company needs a phone number in the phone book. These are just like old school things that are coming back to the forefront of everything now because of the golden age where it was just people going crazy with AliExpress.
Yeah, I mean, people like having, and even just on, beyond that, like for payment options, people, certain demographics like having the ability to buy over the phone or send a check. Like there are still a good chunk of people that don't necessarily feel comfortable putting a credit card in a form, and maybe they don't have a credit card, right? There's people that don't have bank accounts. Um, and, and we've seen that like having the phone number, people also will call and then place a big order, right? They just didn't feel comfortable placing an order for, placing a large quantity order online. They wanted to talk to somebody before placing a bulk order. Or people that said, hey, can you accept checks or can I write checks? Obviously, you don't market it, but like if you don't have the option to communicate, you lose those sales right out of the gate. And again, it's not like huge numbers. It's not going to, double your business, but little things like that add up, right? It's lost revenue that people are just leaving on the table because they, don't put a simple thing like a phone number or a way to reach out.
Yeah, I think it's just hard. Like, it's hard to build that. It's going to get harder, I should say, to build that business while living by yourself in Colombia or something. Like, if you want to build it massive, you really gotta have people in a place on phones, like do your own fulfillment, or at least, take, it's just responsibility stuff, you know?
Yeah. I think it's, it's easy to get to a certain point. I think if you want to get beyond it, for really, I see it like the 10K a day. So like usually like 300K, like 500K a month. To really get beyond that with a single store, you need to start building a team and investing. Like and if your goal is just like, hey, I don't want to, I want to keep super lean. I just want to make cash. I don't want to build a team. Like, then you got to build, $100,000 a month stores and keep building them, if that's what you want to do. But it's, at a certain point you need to invest and you need to build a team if you want to get beyond that. At least that's the number we've kind of seen is like
Yeah.
getting to like the mid millions plus. There's no other way to do it. Otherwise you're like, you could do it for a little bit, but you're going to burn yourself out and screw yourself over because you're just going to drop the ball on too many things.
Seriously.
And it just gives you peace of mind too. Like, this is one of the things that I've realized, especially as we started, because we've always operated lean because we did the big team thing when we had our last agency, and we had huge overhead, and there was a lot of reasons why I wanted to avoid that when we started Unicorn. And so we started Unicorn and stayed super lean for a long time and just were very, very profitable. But at a certain point, the money is not the goal. It's like time, right?
Mhm.
And so it's like, yeah, we can make an extra $50,000, extra $100,000 this month for partners, but like we're working a lot more, and it's your tie to the business, and like we've started to hire a lot more, and just like not having to do a ton of stuff I used to have to do is so much more. It's so worth whatever we pay anybody. I don't care what we pay him. It's like it's worth it having this person. It's worth having that person, because it's freeing me up a lot to focus on bigger stuff. And in the long run, you make a lot more money, right? So we can accomplish a lot more. Like having 10 people, 15 people, 20 people working towards a common goal is going to get, exponentially greater results It just takes a long period of time and it takes more upfront risk. And I think a lot of people aren't able or willing to invest in that period of time where it's, hey, it's going to take a few months. You might go in the hole a little bit, or you might like break even for a few months, but it's a bigger picture game you're playing.
Yeah, and it sounds like you guys have been more selective in who you're working with too.
Yep. Yeah. That's like the selectivity has been huge for us because like Jeremy and I were just talking about this today, actually. Like the emotional drain that you get from working with the wrong person can be like debilitating. It's there's people that are kind of emotional vampires and energy vampires that just like take everything out of you with like one conversation. And yeah, I mean, we fired a lot of clients. This is like 6 to 9 months ago when we started winding down the agency because we didn't want to do it anymore. And you know, the max of like 3 to 5 years ago would have looked at like firing a client that's, you know, making us $50,000 a month and said like, why would you do that? And it's easy to like, if you're struggling, to get in that trap of like, I need to take business because I need to pay the bills.
Mm-hmm.
And then that mentality, I think, stays even when you're successful. It's hard to get rid of that mentality. So even though you don't necessarily need the money anymore, you still think scarce because, hey, if I lost this person, all of a sudden I'm back here. And yeah, we made the decision and just like, we're going to do what we want to do. We're going to do what we have fun doing. And yeah, we'll take a short-term hit cash-wise by firing a lot of clients, but we're going to be happier. We're going to enjoy what we're doing, and we're going to build something much bigger that actually has value. And that's what started happening. But yeah, it's hard to do. It's not easy to make that decision.
I think honestly, I think it all comes back to self-love. Like, you know, assessing your motivations for scaling your business. Are you like, okay, you've been in survival mode, scrapping it out, and now you're scaling huge. Is your motivation to do this to prove to somebody else that you can do it? Is your motivation to get validation from other people on Facebook that you made a X million-dollar store? Like, you really have to, I've been thinking about this a lot too. It's assessing what's the motivation for everything. And I think if you're not like centered here, heart and mind, if that's not centered and you don't have self-love, then you'll never be happy at any scale. So you really got to take the time to slow down and figure out what you really want.
It's totally true. Like that's been one of the single greatest realizations. Because I used to, my entire like early 20s to mid 20s, like struggled, like really, really struggled, like financially. It was month to month, hand to mouth. And during that time, you think about the things that you want, right? Like if I had money, I would buy nice cars and watches and house and all that stuff. Like what's amazing, and this is something I think hard for people to think about until they actually like step back and talk, like think about what I'm about to say. You always have this mindset that, okay, I'm 18, and if I could make $100,000, I would be so happy. Like if I can make $100,000 a year, like, oh man, like that'd be big time, right? And then you get to that point, and you're like, I'm making $100,000 a year, and that maybe stays exciting for a few weeks, maybe a month or two, but eventually you're like, it no longer fulfills that desire you had. Now it's, if I can make $500,000 a year. And same thing with tangible things. It's like maybe you want a Lamborghini or $100,000 car. Like think about every time in your life, and this is not you, but like anybody watching or listening, every time in your life you've like desired something, whether it's a fancy piece of jewelry or clothes or, you know, a vacation or a house or a car, whatever it might be. Like when you get it, it's so exciting. It's new. You get a new car and you drive it every minute of every day. And you're like, oh man, it's awesome. But eventually you like don't want to drive anymore. It's like, oh, I got to drive and get coffee. I don't want to do it. Like, yeah, somebody else do it. But you think that like getting the next level up car is going to finally like, ooh, you know, the Lamborghini didn't do it, but if I had, you know, a McLaren, that would do it. If I had a Bugatti, that would do it. And it's so crazy because you know it's the exact same thing's gonna happen. You're gonna get it. It's gonna fulfill you for a few weeks, and then you're gonna be, and it's no longer gonna be new or shiny. So you're gonna move on to the next thing. And like once you have that realization that it's a shell game, like you're never gonna find one tangible object that's going to fulfill you for more than a few months. Then like the the fight to get those things no longer seems that important. It's more so like, well, what can I actually do that will fulfill me for years and
Yeah.
decades? And for me, at least, like it's relationships and it's purpose. It's like, if I'm doing and building something that I actually believe in and excites me, like that fulfills me every day, no matter if it's today or next week or next month or a year from now or 10 years from now. And then
Mhm.
relationships, it's like having, I'm going to have a kid, like, and my wife and like those things and friends and stuff. That's like every day I get the same feeling I get today as I did yesterday, as I did 5 years ago. Um, and it's like a prioritization of importance. And then it changes your whole like mindset and how you approach work, right? It's like, okay, well, these are the important things and I have these things. So what am I doing over here? Like, what's the reasoning for this anymore? And if there's not a good reason for it, I'm not going to do it anymore, or I'm going to slow down on doing it.
Yeah. It's kind of hard when you're younger too, and or you're just starting to get success, and you're like, you almost don't believe people that have been through it that the fancy things don't matter when they tell you
They
like
don't.
this is not going to make you happy. But when you're starting, you're like, you almost don't believe them. Like, no, I need to see it for myself, kind of feeling. And then if you do get there, great. You're going to see what everybody else has seen. I mean, there's like a long history of people saying this stuff does not like matter as much as you think it does.
It
Security
does not.
matters, and like
Yep.
erasing your debt, security, like, setting up your kids, that's, of course, that matters. And having money to do the thing you really want to do. But I think most people would agree the thing you really want to do is not tied to tangible things. Like most people who are like, I'm a billionaire, what do you want to do? I think most people want to give back somehow, you know?
Yeah, I mean that's why like most billionaires that you see like no longer have fancy. It's like Warren Buffett and Bill Gates don't
Elon,
drive Bugattis, and even yeah, like Elon when he was first making his money, he bought some very expensive things and was very into cars and all that stuff, and splurged. But like Elon today now is like selling all his houses. He's like getting rid of
yeah,
all his material things because he's just like it's a distraction. Like it doesn't fulfill me anymore. It's not my purpose. Like I don't care.
yeah, I think that's so cool of him.
Yeah,
I
it
like
is
that.
crazy. Like, and what's amazing though is just I don't know what causes this psychologically with people, like what's going on with the brain, where people know what's going to happen and they know what the destination is, but they think somehow it's going to be different for them, right? It's interesting. Like this Jonah Berger book that I'm reading, The Catalyst, that just came out like a few months ago, talks a lot about this, where this fascinating concept where like for decades, like anti-smoking ads like didn't work. Like the whole Tide Pod thing, like Tide came out, and when people started eating Tide Pods, they came out and they did an ad with like a PSA with Gronk, and it's basically Gronk saying, don't eat Tide Pods. Tide Pods are chemicals, all this stuff, right? And they said like as soon as that went live, within the next few weeks, searches for Tide Pod, eating Tide Pods, and like calls to poison control increase exponentially. And the same thing happens with like smoking. Like you can tell kids don't smoke. It's bad to smoke. You can give everyone the fact, but people still do it. People do it more when you tell them not to do it. It's this crazy thing because humans don't like being told what to do. They need
Yeah.
to come to the realization on their own. And the story I told actually yesterday on one of my lives was because I was talking about like how your attitude and actions need to match as a human being, and if they don't match, it makes people feel uncomfortable. Like if you say one thing and do something else, it makes you feel bad, and people try to avoid that scenario. So in like Thailand, for an anti-smoking campaign, they had a really big, smoking's a big problem, and they wanted to cut down on it, and they tried, pamphlets and all the stuff they tried, nothing worked, and they came up with a campaign to have a 10-year-old kid go out, go up to his smokers, and had a cigarette. The kid had a cigarette in his hands, and asked the smoker, "Can I have a light?" And the adult would look at the kid and say, like, "No, I'm not going to give you a light. You're a kid. Smoking's bad. It's terrible." And basically, that the person that's a smoker told the kid all the reasons why they shouldn't smoke. It's all this stuff, and the kid walked away and came back and gave the person a note, and the note basically said, "Then why are you smoking?" Right? And if you want to quit smoking, call this number. And they said like the phone calls increased by like a massive percent and smoking dropped off because you had the person who was a smoker came to the realization on their own that smoking was bad. They were basically, their attitude changed. They were saying smoking is
Hmm.
bad, but now their action didn't match it. So they had to stop their action. Um, and I think that's interesting where it's just like, these younger people, they
Yeah.
see where it's going to end up, right? Like, hey, Elon Musk, Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, all these super wealthy people, none of them are driving around in Bugattis and doing all kinds of crazy, like, crazy stuff with money. Obviously, there's some rich people that still do that, but like a lot of the super wealthy don't do that. But like for somehow, like some reason, it's going to be different for me. Like these things didn't fulfill Gates or Bezos or Buffett, but like for me, they're going to fulfill me, and I'm going to pursue them.
Yeah. There's this so people don't like advice. They
Mhm.
usually put up their defense mechanisms when they're given any kind of advice.
Yep.
Like you said, they want to go see for themselves. I'm part of a group called EO, Entrepreneurs Organization, and advice is actually off limits in our forum. It's basically a CEO group in each city. I'm in EO Tampa.
Yep.
Advice is off limits. If you start giving advice, somebody like hits either a button or says, hey, or calls you out. You say, hey, can you reframe that as Gestalt? And Gestalt is essentially, um, you can only describe your own experience and what happened and how like it made you feel. So only from personal experience will it does a couple things for the listener. It allows them to come up with their own solution, you know, instead of telling them what they should think, and keeps relationships better. But yeah, if I had to give Gestalt with some of this stuff, it'd be like, in my experience, this is what we did, and got all this stuff, and it didn't make me feel as good as I thought. Um, you know, but that's just my experience. you know.
It's powerful, and that's there's a there's just so much data to support that angle where it's just like telling somebody to do something, trying to sell somebody on something. Like you can maybe, there's a percent of people that you can always get. You can manipulate and stuff like that, and really convince, if, especially if they're in the market, they're actively looking. There's circumstances, but like a huge chunk of people are like you said, as soon as they feel like they're being told to do something, they're
Yeah.
instantly putting up the bar and they're doing the opposite. And that's I've been like really interested in that lately. That's why I'm reading a lot about it. And like I just read like Chris Voss's book again, which is like Never
Oh,
Split the
nice.
Difference, the hostage negotiator. And he also has a master class, which is amazing. And the dude was essentially like the FBI's top hostage negotiator for a long time. He's now taught, he has a private practice, a consulting group called the Black Swan Group that like consults with huge companies for negotiations and stuff. And it's amazing, like the tactics that he uses when he was doing hostage negotiations for the FBI, like big cases, like would never ask somebody to come out, would never ask somebody to do something. Everything was framed in questions, right?
Mm,
It was, somebody would say, hey, they would kidnap somebody and say, we want $5 million. And he'd have the wife say, well, instead of saying like, I don't have $5 million, I can't pay you $5 million. She would say, well, how would you like me to get $5 million? How do you want me to do that? And now they have to think, well, how will she get $5 million? Like, she's not wealthy. Like, how can she get that? And they're going to start negotiating against themselves and thinking, and like they're thinking and they're answering in their head and they're coming with their own ideas. It's coming from like inside them, and it's their idea. And that's like his whole game, which is just crazy. Like the mind fuck of this is like getting the other person to come up with your idea as their own. Like
yeah.
that's like the holy grail of marketing is I have an idea, but I need to talk to you in a way that makes you come to the realization and my idea on your own. So you believe that, hey, I'm not listening to that. They didn't sell me. This was my idea. It was my idea to buy this car, not their idea I should get it. And like
Yeah.
that shit blows my mind. Like the guys like Chris Voss and stuff that have done this for so long and how good they are. Every word they use, every pause they have in their sentences, like every little thing is perfected to like know
Yeah.
exactly how to manipulate. Like manipulate's a negative word, but exactly how to kind of bend somebody to your will and accomplish your goal. It's crazy.
Yeah. And the buyers have more self-esteem when it's like, oh, this is my idea. I need this. Like it's almost more respectful
It is.
from every angle, you
There's
know?
less guilt. There's less remorse again, because it's an idea that they originated. And so it's more likely to stick as opposed to like being kind of, marketed to and like I bought that because they hit me with a discount and made me feel really guilty, and now I don't really want it anymore. Right? It's like, but if you believe that it's I need this product because this is going to solve this problem for me, and it's a problem that I know I have, like you're much less likely to return it. You're also less likely to like not follow through with it. That's the other thing. If you sell like info products and courses and programs, like part of the success of that is the person actually fulfilling, like doing what they bought. Otherwise, they're not going to be happy. And so if they believe it's their idea, they're much more likely to actually invest the time into it and get the results because they've bought into it. They haven't been sold. Um, but yeah, the shit just fascinates me. Like the more I've been like diving down this rabbit hole, like persuasion and just like how the human brain works and stuff. It's crazy stuff.
Yeah, and so are you getting into a lot of that with your clients?
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying to pitch, like to not pitch, to document a lot of stuff. That's one of my biggest struggles has been um, taking the things that I do on the marketing side and turning them into documentation and processes. So like our media buyers, like step by step, know exactly how to do things. And it's way more difficult than I ever expected, especially considering that I've been teaching this for over 2 years now, and I talk about it and stuff. But it's like one thing to put down like a step by step. Hey, set up a campaign this way. It's another thing to like articulate how to write compelling emotional copy, like how to do what I essentially just said, like how to make your idea sound like their idea. There's just like ways that I do things where I'll come up with ideas that I don't know how I got to it, and I don't know why I got to it. I just did. And that's very hard to explain because it's not originating in your neocortex. Like it's not your frontal, like the part of your brain that's analytical and comes up with words and stuff. It's your limbic system. It's like your emotional, kind of your gut, where all those ideas come from. And it's hard to articulate those concepts because they're split from like where words originate. And so I've been struggling with that of like translating that information into something that's like legible and somebody can actually go through and like get it. So I'm working with people like mentors and people that just like to accomplish that, but definitely a difficult task.
Do you have a copywriting guy that you like to use or work with or learn from?
Um, I don't necessarily have like a copywriting like guru or expert that I necessarily follow. I read a lot, which I think is important for marketers is like to read every day and to write every day. But I also like, I'm on a lot of newsletters of people that I think write really well. Basically anybody that grabs my attention, I follow and like read their stuff. Cause I think if you can grab a marketer's attention, I mean, it does this every day. If you can get their attention and hook them, like you're doing something right.
Yeah.
Like Ian Stanley, he does great stuff. Like he's an incredible copywriter, and I get his email every day, and like I open his email every day because he writes incredible headlines, and he knows how to get your attention. He tells great stories. Basically anybody from Agora, like they're professional copywriters, is all they do. So their newsletters, whether it's like Bill Bonner or any of those guys, they put out really good content on the newsletter side, mainly financial stuff, but you pick up a lot of insights just from reading other people that like write every day and they're professional marketers. But yeah, there's no like course or program out there that I've like, I'm sure there are courses and programs out there that are great. I just haven't like dove into any that like top of mind know that, hey, go buy this course and check it out. If you know somebody, I'm more than happy to share.
No, not too much. Not really.
Awesome, man. Well, I know I just realized too, because we got a late start, I realized we're like 15 minutes over and I want to be respectful of your time. That's what I love about doing this and like only doing it really with friends is that these are just conversations and they always like this. that's the sign I think of like a good like chat is
Yeah.
when you realize you've been talking for over an hour and like didn't realize it. Um, I always find like on podcasts that I did as the other on the other side that were very formulaic and people with people I didn't know, I was like
Yeah.
watching the clock. I was like, crap, we're only 15 minutes in. Like, gotta talk for 45 more minutes, and I was always aware of the time. So I'm always appreciative of having friends on here to chat with.
Yeah, just seeing where it goes, no
Yeah,
agenda. I think you just have to get the right people together, and then it's like at the bar with marketers,
exactly.
you know?
Yep. And you got your fancy tea. Next time we chat, I'm gonna have a fancier glass and I'll have something in there so we can have a drinking with marketers
Well,
session.
dude, come to our office, see our stuff. You can see everything.
I
Uh,
definitely plan on doing that now that you guys are down here. We used to have an office actually in St. Pete when we had Quantum because Kevin lives there. So it's a
yeah,
great place.
yeah. Um, St. Pete's coming on strong with a lot of e-commerce. Like we just started with this Amazon agency called Zonlux.
Yep.
Um, I don't know if you've heard anything about them, but they're our neighbor. So we're like, yeah, we'll
Of
start
course we'll work
sending
with you.
sending jewelry to Amazon. Sure. Yeah. So
That's awesome.
we're really happy here. I want to come up to Orlando sometime soon.
Yeah.
Um, I would love to. Yeah.
Well, you're more than welcome. And Larissa and I, we're halfway through building our house. So our houses will be done probably in August. So I know we have our offices downtown, but also Lake Nona is a little closer to the Tampa area. So you're more than welcome to come visit. And then we'll definitely come down and, visit you guys and check out your new setup. For
What's this town
anybody,
called?
Lake Nona,
Lake
Nona, Nona.
Nona.
Yeah. I mean, it's not a huge difference. It's like probably 15 minutes closer, you know,
By there. Or
as opposed to going like all the way downtown in
got a
Orlando.
Walmart there.
We do. They're building a ton of stuff. It's like the fastest growing area in Orlando.
Okay. You're actually not too far from the beach either.
We're a little closer. Yeah.
A little closer, yeah.
Yeah. So, so if people that are watching, listening, like the best place for them to go if they want to start doing any type of print on demand jewelry and work with you guys, just shineon.com.
Shineon.com, upper right, sellers and affiliates.
Love
Yeah.
it, man. Well, I appreciate it. Everyone go check out shineon.com. It's especially if you're selling anything on ecom, like it's always good to have products that differentiate and separate yourself. And like print on demand jewelry just has such high perceived value. And I know just from like knowing your numbers and stuff, you have sellers that are just absolutely crushing it right now. So it's a hot market. It's only going to get hotter, and definitely something that I highly recommend. We're working with Eric. We're doing stuff for our Proud Patriots brand, so we feel good recommending it.
Yeah. No, I'm excited to do a lot more with that brand. It's super exciting.
Yeah, we have some big plans. So I know
Yeah.
we'll be talking more offline about that
All
going
right.
forward.
Let's do that.
Awesome, man. Well, thanks
Thanks.
everyone. We'll see you next week on the next episode.
See you guys.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that episode. I know I have a blast with all these episodes. This is something I really have fun doing. This is a passion project for me. There's no real big agenda here, but I've been getting a lot of requests from people that listen to the show, that watch it, wherever they're watching it, for how they can learn more, how they can get into the community, the unicorn community. So I wanted to record this little outro just as a way to tell you more about how you can get deeper into our community, learn more, engage more, build deeper relationships, and all that good stuff. But first, if you enjoy these episodes, wherever you're watching, if you're watching it on Facebook, YouTube, if you're listening on Spotify or iTunes, make sure wherever you are, if you like this, give it 5 stars, give it a thumbs up, give it that like button, wherever you are, right? It's going to be different wherever you are. Write a review and make sure you subscribe so you get the latest episode that drops every week on Thursday. Now, if you want to join our free Facebook group, it's growing like crazy. We now have over 23,000 people in that group. Just go to Facebook and search Marketing Strategies for Business Leaders. That's our free Facebook group. Amazing content in there. We're starting to really build it up and do some cool stuff there. If you want to go further, if you want to invest in yourself, if you want to be part of our kind of premium program, specifically to learn advanced cutting edge paid traffic skills, be able to ask me questions on a weekly basis, be able to have me personally review your ads, your funnels, your landing pages, all that good stuff, go to Paid Traffic Training, all one word, paidtraffictraining.com. You'll be able to learn all about that program. It's a monthly program, gives you access to both my Facebook courses, private Facebook group. And again, we do weekly calls where I do a 90-minute call with our students, and they can ask me anything. I share the latest and greatest stuff. I can review, ads and funnels and all that good stuff. I do audits, Q&As, amazing stuff. And that's just $97 a month. It's month to month, no long-term commitment. So if you want to be part of that, paidtraffictraining.com. If you don't, but you want to just be part of our group, go to Marketing Strategies for Business Leaders. That's on Facebook. Just search that. Join our free Facebook group and join the Unicorn community. And remember, give it 5 stars, hit that like button, hit the